News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by the Duck Hunter. In addition to 14 new COVID deaths listed in the Utah Department of Health Wednesday report, there's also been another one-day record for coronavirus cases with 10,220 new positives in the state since yesterday. Almost 4,000 Utahns have lost their lives to the coronavirus over the course of the pandemic. In Utah's 3 northern counties, there have been 197 coronavirus deaths. With over 10,000 new positive cases since Tuesday, that increases statewide coronavirus cases since the start of the pandemic to 726,216. Since February 1st of last year, people who are unvaccinated are at 6.9 times greater risk of dying from COVID-19, 6.9 times greater risk of being hospitalized, and 1.9 times greater risk of testing positive for COVID-19 than vaccinated individuals. There were 25,170 Utahns tested since Tuesday, and now nearly 4.5 million have been tested. Nearly 8.3 million total tests have been administered the last 22 days. KBNU News Time is 4:06. KBNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy, hazy through the night. Patchy fog after midnight, low 15 to 20. Partly sunny, patchy morning fog, hazy conditions, high in the mid-30s. And we were at 36 this afternoon. 16 was our morning low. It's 33 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather is brought to you by Adams Wealth Advisors. Expect specific guidance from advisors that adhere to principles of honesty, professionalism, and integrity. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com to schedule a time with an advisor today.
Does your home have that stuffy winter smell? John at the Duck Hunter says it could be your air ducts holding on to dust and other surprises. To get rid of that smell, give John a call at the Duck Hunter. He'll thoroughly clean each duct in every room. Not with a shop vac, but with forced air and a vacuum that'll make your mom proud. He can even run a camera through your vents to see what's going on. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KBNU News Time is 4:07. Legislation to cut Idaho's income tax and provide one-time rebates was introduced today in the House Revenue and Taxation Committee. The Idaho Press reports the House committee moved with unusual speed to get it introduced on the third day of the session. Governor Brad Little outlined the proposal in his State of the State address earlier this week. The bill would provide one-time rebates of $75 or 12% of 2020 state income taxes paid, whichever is higher, to all Idaho residents who filed state tax returns in 2019. It would also consolidate Idaho's 5 income tax brackets into 4. And a steady rise in student absences and COVID-19 cases and worsening staff shortages have prompted Canyon School District to call for an emergency remote learning day. KUTV reports on-campus instruction will be suspended at all Canyon schools for one day next Tuesday, January 18th, which is being set aside for at-home learning, the district announced Tuesday evening. On Tuesday, 4 out of 5 traditional high schools in the Canyon School District met the threshold for conducting test-to-stay events. School officials also say that supply chain issues led to a short supply of testing kits statewide, further complicating efforts to keep students in school. Meanwhile, the district said that student absences are rising steadily along with employee absences, worsening an already prolonged labor shortage. Superintendent Dr. Rick Robbins said that it is becoming more difficult to cover classrooms with their pool of trained and approved subs. The temporary shift to remote learning was approved by the Canyons Board of Education in consultation with the Utah State Board of Education, state elected leaders, and the Salt Lake County Health Department. KBNU News Time is 4:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Logan Dental Associates has been serving Cache Valley for over 20 years. They are excited to announce the addition of Dr. Brandon Preby, hygienist Emily Preby, and Dr. Curtis Taylor. Dr. Preby and Dr. Taylor will also continue to work at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Now allow for increased hours and advanced services at Logan Dental Associates in Logan. Call and make your appointment with Dr. Brandon Preby or Dr. Curtis Taylor at Logan Dental Associates by calling 435-787-8207.
Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. If you're having heating trouble and you need your furnace fixed, just pick up the phone and call Gary Riggs. 435-512-6633. We'll come to you. Our service fee is low, just $25. We repair all brands and have certified installers. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs. Get your furnace fixed. Call Gary Riggs.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cache Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People, hour one and the only hour of For the People today. We have graciously, now we're always proud to do it, but we've turned over our second hour today, the 5 to 6 o'clock time spot, to Mr. Al Lewis, an Aggie Game Day. So that's coming up starting right at 5 this afternoon. And this should be, I don't know what it is, Bill. I wax and wane on college sports. I'm usually pretty neutral on professional sports in general. I tend to plug in, well, I plug into the NFL about now for the last.
Yeah, well, playoff season.
Yeah, playoffs.
It's exciting.
It gets a little more exciting. The NHL, I can actually watch a lot of the season, and then the opposite. The NHL's playoffs just seem endless to me, and so I tend to...
Yeah, it goes on a long time.
Yeah, I tend to drift a little bit from hockey towards playoffs, but with the NFL, it gets more interesting to me. I've never really been able to get very excited about the NBA, ever. I don't know why. I know that makes me a Jazz apostate, but it's not my thing. College basketball and college football really get my interest sometimes. March Madness, I think, is one of the most fun events of the year. It just, there's something exciting about it, and the fact that something, at least one very unpredictable thing happens each and every year.
I feel bad about...
Of course, in 2020, it was the pandemic.
Right, yeah.
Not the gameplay, but...
Things, weird stuff happened. I feel bad about Monday night, though, because... I was here at the station, and I wanted to watch some of it. I totally spaced the national championship, Alabama and Georgia, and then I was here, and I heard ABC News saying congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs, and I said, oh, that was tonight. Oh, man.
Yeah, that ended up being a pretty good game, and that Chargers game over the weekend, overtime, and man.
Who won?
That was...
I can't remember. That was
everyone. I think everyone in my circle.
I don't like the Chargers.
I didn't really care for either team, but I think everyone in my circle was hoping to see life get a little more difficult for Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
And
that's always good.
And so the potential very unexpected outcome of that game there in that overtime that didn't end up happening. I got everyone excited about a team that wasn't even playing that night. But it was
named the Kansas City Chiefs, or
it was pretty exciting to watch, and it was a fun game. It was an aggressive game.
Your family should get in the same text thread with my family. My siblings, most of my siblings, have become rabid Kansas City Chiefs fans.
But how do they feel about Pittsburgh though?
Well,
because I think for mine it was more Pittsburgh hate than than anything else that got them excited. But yeah, it was a fun game to watch, and but I had to laugh, and the reason I bring this up, I don't know if they're trained or instructed to do this type of thing, but as the game headed into a tie, and it looked like things might turn out very differently than expected and might kind of upend the teams in the next weekend, the upcoming this weekend playoff games. That bad news for Pittsburgh fans, basically. And Raiders, if you follow, you know how this all works. But basically, Pittsburgh was going to be knocked out if the outcome was of a certain kind or certain type, and it didn't happen. But for a few minutes there, it looked likely, and one of the cameramen found this lonely. I don't know if he was there as a Raiders fan or a Chargers fan, but he was wearing a Pittsburgh shirt, and the cameraman found him, and just held on him for a minute, and this poor guy near the very front rows in this Pittsburgh shirt, just arms slack at his side, this look on his face like he was about to cry, and just kind of glaring around, everyone around him dancing and cheering and or shaking their fists and angry, one of the two, but a lot of movement. And here's this poor guy in a Pittsburgh shirt just standing there, just looking so sad. And they just hung on him for about 15 seconds. It was a good laugh.
A future meme for sure. They hopefully he gets money for every time he will become a meme from here on out.
Yeah,
but I don't think that'll happen.
It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. This upcoming weekend should be exciting. Anyway, all right, enough sports talk.
Yeah, I think we have a station that does that.
If you want more sports, the fan, they're over there yelling at each other right now as we speak. So, political talk coming up. This is a tradition heading into the legislative session each and every year. The public can go in. You can see this stuff anytime you want. As lawmakers open bill files and begin to add text, or rather the legislative drafters begin to add text for lawmakers. Very few of our lawmakers actually write their own laws. And that's I'm not critiquing them for that. It's just it's a citizen legislature. And so the legalese and the making sure that this or that proposed change or addition or subtraction doesn't walk all over some other existing statute. There's basically a team of lawyers, legislative counsel they call themselves, or they are called, and their job is the lawmaker basically says, here's this idea I have, or an idea that constituents have brought to me, and this happens a lot more than lawmakers want to admit, here's something a bunch of well-moneyed lobbyists and industry representatives have brought to me. And that's more often the case than not, for better or worse. And I'd like to make this change here in Utah. And so the change is described in detail by the lawmaker. A bill file is opened. The minute it's opened, it's public, and oftentimes titled as well. But it can be weeks before there's actually any text until now. Heading into the legislative session, which kicks off officially next Tuesday, the text of bills begins to pop up. And so it's a good time to go through and look at certain bill titles and see what lawmakers are working on. And we've got a whole list. Hundreds of bills were unveiled yesterday, the day before, and even more today as they ramp up for this legislative session. And it gives you an idea of what you can expect from the 45-day legislative session, which kicks off again next Tuesday. And there are some hot-button issues. There are always a few lawmakers that self-select to try and turn the Utah legislature into Congress, the federal level, with some national issue or some hot-button political issue. The legislature is traditionally good. Last year, not so much with that extraordinary session for CRT banning and all of that when they weren't even sure what it was. So that got a little weird, but generally the legislature is very good at killing these quickly. Not resolutions. There are always a few resolutions that slip through that are just political bandwagons. But resolutions don't mean anything, really. It's just the legislature saying this is where what we think, and they don't change statute or anything like that. But when it comes to actual bills, the more political bills, the more nationalized politics-oriented bills, they tend to die quickly in committees. It doesn't seem to stop the self-selecting lawmakers from running them each and every session, but they do tend to die quickly. Happy to report, though, there are, so far at least, few of those this year. Most of the bills that are being unveiled, again, this started on Monday, and today we got our biggest dump of newly filed bills made public, and we'll run through them on the other side of the break. But just to give people an idea, we have bills that are dealing with how forensic DNA is handled in Utah, chain of command, and how it's kept. We've got bills that deal with increasing the penalty for DUI offenses. We have bills on food trucks. This is one that is a bill seeking to make changes to how business licenses and more from city to city are accepted across the state when it comes to food trucks, because, of course, food trucks travel. The corn dog truck was in Tremont over the weekend, for example, but they were actually based and have their business license in Salt Lake City. So there have been a few issues that popped up along that. But again, I present these as an example. There's another bill. Representative Abbott, Republican in the House, has filed a bill on criminal commitment for mental health issues. There's a loophole, basically, here in the state that stops a court from being able to, in certain settings, when there's a known mental health issue or a history of mental health issues, use a criminal charge to actually force someone into mental health treatment. It is legal here in Utah, but it is difficult for prosecutors to actually go that route. And so Representative Abbott wants to change that. So just a handful of examples. We'll run through them all in greater detail coming up on the other side of the break, but just an idea of what lawmakers are working on, sort of nuts and bolts changes to statute. That is the majority of what we're seeing so far, and that's a good sign. It means, well, at least so far, legislature is walking back a little bit from some of the weirdness of the 2021 session. But we'll let you decide. I'll list the bills for you if you'd like to weigh in. If you have an opinion about anything we talk about, we'll run through the bills unveiled so far for the upcoming legislative session right after this.
If you have an aging loved one who could use a little extra help, you may wonder how much help is needed. Legacy House of Logan may be what you're looking for. Their different levels of care can accommodate your loved one no matter his or her needs, from daily tasks like dressing and bathing and medical administration to more advanced care for those with dementia. Legacy House of Logan offers all the comforts of home with a caring staff who really know how to take care of your loved ones. We invite you to stop by and see if Legacy House of Logan is right for your loved one on 1400 North in Logan.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
UNI Furniture is excited to be going back to the furniture market in Las Vegas. After taking the last couple of years off, the furniture market is back on, and UNI is expecting to buy lots of inventory direct from the manufacturers. So in anticipation, UNI has gotten aggressive with their in-store discounts during their January clearance. Sofas, loves, chairs, sectionals, dining room, bedroom, and mattresses are all on sale. This January clearance features discounts on all home decor and accents too. It all adds up to just another reason there's always a better buy at UNI Furniture. Furniture, downtown Logan.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Running through some of the bills unveiled today, yesterday, and Monday, heading into next week's legislative session. It kicks off on Tuesday. We'll wrap up the second to last week of March. And for that 45-day period, well, if you've followed these before, you know there are always a lot of unexpecteds. Some of the things we know about the legislative session, money is going to be a big discussion. There's a lot of it. It's all our money, of course, but it will be discussed for 45 days, which I cut them some slack on this one. There are some hardliners that I know get very upset at how lawmakers talk when they're going through the budgeting and appropriations process during the 45-day session, as if they're just running a business of money they made. That's how it has to be talked about, really, for the sake of what they're there to do. Constitutionally mandated, they have to do this. I think it's just easier for them to talk about it that way when they're having discussions with each other and when they're negotiating with stakeholders and special interest groups and the public and all of that. But yeah, I kind of get it, and it's good to be reminded once in a while that this is our money that they're working with. But the picture, as it looks right now, the legislature wrapped up the year with a $600 million plus surplus, which means the budget they put into place in the 2021 session, they actually ended up with more revenue than they anticipated wrapping up the year. So that will then be held and carried over into the pool of money they have to work with this year. Revenues projections also imply, at least, that things are going to stay this way for a while, at least the next year or two. The economy is very good nationwide and here in Utah. It's very... I talked to an economist recently, someone we're going to have on the show in the future, and he said one of the best things about the economy right now is that not only is it continuously growing and improving from that sudden dip in 2020, but also some of the stagnation that had been seen prior to 2020, as economies, tend to wax and wane themselves, and they grow and grow, and then they start to kind of that growth starts to fizzle, and then there's worry of a contraction or recession, and then they can be set off by outside events, of course, rather than just even the natural flow of an economy. But one of the things economists look for is they prefer slower growth, not too slow, not too fast. There's like a happy area where you're not worried about the economy overheating because it's growing too fast, but also you're not worried about contraction anytime soon because it's growing steadily and still fast enough. That's basically where we're at here in Utah, according to legislative analysts in a presentation yesterday. And that holds up pretty much the rest of the country. So it's safe to assume the next year, maybe even two, barring some unexpected event like the pandemic was, things should look pretty good revenue-wise for Utah lawmakers. So they're going to approach the budget that way. And so you're going to hear a lot of talk about spending. There's going to be, there is a proposed tax cut. I think the legislature, regardless of how you feel, there's a warring schools of thought right now within the legislature and within special interest groups that are putting a lot of pressure on them. There are a lot of unfunded things or underfunded things here in Utah. There's I think, still a sound argument that we're underfunding education in general. There are some examples of some underfunding of social services and health services that have really been exposed by the pandemic. And so there's pressure on lawmakers to actually, pay the bills and where they can stop trying to run things on a shoestring. So there will be some of that, some expansion a little bit of this or that as populations grow. That is necessary from time to time. But they'll put a fancy sheen on this by talking a lot about a tax cut. But the only tax cut proposed so far, it sounds great. They're proposing an income tax cut. But they're talking about a 0.05% income tax cut from 4.95 to 4.90. So if you are a large corporation, that's, a fair amount of money. If you are a single person or a family of two, with even with both both of the parents working, a 0.05% income tax cut is probably not going to be very noticeable. For the median income here in Utah, that would be roughly $25 a month. For the median income. And if you're in that median income range, $25 a month is going to be reabsorbed into your budget pretty quickly. So it's not a huge tax cut. It's something, at least, but it's not huge. The Utah Taxpayers Association today put some pressure on lawmakers. They're saying, look, with the surplus you guys wrapped up 2021 with, the revenue projections that show you're going to have a lot more money to work with even than 2021 in 2022, can we talk about if we're going to talk tax cut, can we talk about a more significant tax cut, something that would actually be noticed, that would have an impact? Especially, the argument the Taxpayers Association making is that those in that median income range are the ones that probably don't need that extra $25 a month. Those in the lower income range do, and those in the higher income range could care less. So is this really an effective way to go about it? So I don't know. That debate won't really get underway until probably the second, maybe even third week of the session. But that's the proposed tax cut. And the Senate president, chief cheerleader, out trying to put the sheen on everything. Again, I'm saying this because a lot of money is going to be spent. A lot of your money is going to be spent in this legislative session. And they're going to respond to any criticism over that by saying, look, we're giving you a tax cut. The Senate president, opening remarks at this Utah Taxpayers Association meeting today, which actually met with some eye rolls, said, I called 2021 the year of the tax cut. There was a $100 million tax cut for some folks who qualified on Social Security and military veterans. He said, and that led him to call 2021 the year of the tax cut, a little dramatic. He said, this year is going to be even better. But again, so far, the only thing being proposed is this 0.05% reduction in the income tax rate. So, and that's maybe not even going to happen. That's just what's being proposed. So we'll see how that plays out. As far as legislation goes, though, there are a lot of police officer-oriented bills in this legislative session. I don't know what gives. I don't know. They're coming from Republicans. But there are a lot of proposed tweaks and changes to the way we do everything from train police officers to what happens if a police officer is in trouble with one department. One bill actually proposing a 12-month cooling off period. That's what I'm calling it. That's not what it's called in the bill. For an officer who is fired or removed for one department. The bill obviously trying to go after a problem we've seen here in Utah, one that even affected the Logan City Police Department, where an officer is removed from duty or outright fired, or in some cases even criminally charged in another department, and then they take a month or two off, and some other police department here in Utah hires them. There's a bill aiming to put an end to that, or at least say, you can't work if you're fired or criminally charged. You can't work as a police officer here in Utah depending on the situation, ever again, or at least for a year. We'll see where that one goes. That one's sure to be controversial, but we'll talk more about all these. Again, a lot of bills unveiled today on Capitol Hill, some yesterday, some on Monday. Today, though, was the really big public dump of bill files with titles and text heading into next week's legislative session, day one. So before we go to the news, we have a caller on the line, wants to weigh in. Mitch on the line. Mitch, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hey, I got two things to point out to you.
Okay.
One, have you ever noticed that the only tax cuts they ever want to do in Utah are ones that only really benefit really rich people or corporations, those income tax cuts?
Or lawmakers.
Or lawmakers who happen to be making more than $200,000 a year or so.
It's a fair thing to point out.
That's the tax cuts they want to do, but they don't want to cut, sales tax on food that would help poorer people or, things like that. Wonder why that's the ones that they always want to help with and that they're hung up on. The ones that fund their election campaigns.
Yeah.
And two, and this one's about that police one that you were just talking about.
Oh, sure.
The number of people I've heard that talk about stuff like that, like nobody will want to be a cop ever again. I'm like, dude, have you ever seen what I as a teacher have to jump through to prove every year that I'm allowed to still be a teacher?
Sure. That's a good example.
I have to jump through for that. Background checks. You know, if I get fired as a teacher, I'm probably never going to get another job as a teacher again.
Sure.
If I get fired for any kind of misconduct or stuff.
Yeah.
And yet, look how many teachers we got. Shut up about cops not wanting to be cops. I'm going to give you a hint. The cops that won't do that are not people we want to be cops.
Sure. Yeah, it's similar to the military in that way, I think. You know, there are rules, and if someone doesn't want to follow them, then they probably shouldn't have the badge, right? I like, you know, Mitch, I like where this bill's going because there are two different ways to look at it. One, I think it's good for the public. If someone is unqualified to work in one police department and has to be removed from duty, they're likely going to not be good at the job in another. And then the second reason for this is a costly practice for police departments. It really is. They hire officers, and they do so because they're having a hard time finding officers in some areas. So they hire officers who have already been through the training. That saves that department, a few bucks, thousands of bucks, really. And but again, and I believe in second chances, all of that. But I do think there are certain reasons a police officer can be fired or removed from duty that should disqualify them going forward. I think the example of the officer here in Logan City's police department that was hired from the University of Utah for his involvement in what really was, I think, one of the largest most tragic law enforcement scandals here in Utah in my lifetime. And they hired him. That should have never happened. That person should not have been a candidate as a police officer here in Utah.
Public trust.
Sure, that's my point. Is that I think it's more costly for police departments to engage in this practice in the first place. So I like and that's where the bill is coming from. The bill is basically saying, look, this is bad for police departments. This hurts public trust. This costs police departments money. If someone has been fired from one police department, that should be something that another police department can find out easily before hiring them. And maybe even we should have a 12-month cooling off period. We'll see where that one goes. But no, I'm with you, Mitch, as well on tax cuts. I think, it's going to be interesting to watch that play out this session because, as Mitch pointed out, there is this proposal to do away with the sales tax on food. And so when you have the Senate president out there this morning at the Utah Taxpayers Association saying this will be the year of tax cuts. I said it last year, but I really mean it this year. Basically how he opened his remarks. And then there's this proposal to do away with the sales tax on food, which that's a tax cut. We'll see whether lawmakers are going to try and thread a needle and ignore that or include it when they say things like year of tax cuts. But that will be one to watch for sure. Mitch, appreciate the call. Always great to hear from you. Others out there, if you want to weigh in, 753-5868. We have a whole list of bills to go over that were unveiled today. Things we can expect from the legislative session, which kicks off next Tuesday. And a reminder, this is the only hour of For the People today. Coming up at 5 o'clock, Al Lewis will take over the studio here for Aggie Game Day, starting right at 5. We'll be back, though, with more of For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:38, and the news is brought to you by Northern Steel Building. The Utah Department of Workforce Services is hosting a virtual job fair Thursday. Nearly 100 Utah employers are hiring for thousands of open positions statewide and will participate in the free online event. Liz Carver, a Workforce Development Division Director, said it's a great opportunity to meet with multiple employers all in one place. Historically, January has been the busiest time of year for job seekers. Many employers are hiring again after slowing down during the holidays, and many job seekers are ready to start the year with a job or career change. Full and part-time openings are available in many industries, including healthcare, banking, retail, hospitality, transportation, government, and many more. You can find a complete list of participating employers at jobs.utah.gov. Job seekers can participate in the fair from their own computer or smartphone. After logging in, participants will be able to see a digital floor plan with rows of booths. each representing an employer. After clicking on an employer booth, the job seeker can see the company profile, job openings, and social media. They can also start a live chat with a hiring representative and share their resume. Employers can schedule interviews, start one-on-one video chats, or even make job offers on the spot. The statewide virtual fair is Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. To participate, pre-register at jobs.utah.gov and create an account or sign in to My Job Search. Over the last week, administrators at Logan High School have seen a surge in COVID cases among students and faculty. On Monday, the school crossed the threshold set by the Utah legislature to trigger a test-to-stay event. That level is 30 student cases, or 2% in a school with 1,500-plus students in a 14-day period. In an email sent to parents Tuesday night, Logan School District spokesperson Shanna Longhurst said under the test-to-stay protocol, students need a negative COVID test result to remain in school. Each student is required to provide a negative test to attend classes in person, regardless of whether they have been vaccinated or not, or whether they have previously had COVID or not, unless they have had a positive test since January 3rd. The school has a list of those individuals. A school COVID testing event is scheduled for Thursday during the school day. If a student does not attend the event, he or she may seek testing at another testing site any time following the event that would enable them to return to school for a week. A COVID test requires registration and parental consent. The test-to-stay event only impacts Logan High School. No other school in the district has crossed the caseload threshold. And according to their website, it all started with one big dream, two crazy cousins, and the perfect combination of flour, sugar, and chocolate chips. Crumble Cookies was co-founded by Jason McGowan and Sawyer Hemsley. They both teamed up and dove headfirst into the world of baking. They opened their first store in a building since demolished on South Main in Logan, but the roots go back to Hemsley's kitchen in Preston, Idaho. On KBNU's For the People program on Tuesday, Sawyer's mom, Lori Hemsley, talked about how it all began.
We just decided to try a lot of different recipes and see which one worked the best and was the fan favorite. So we actually just tried a lot of different ones, and we went around to our neighborhood, and we have a little grocery store and a gas station close to our home. We took all these cookies around to all the people, and we're asking which one they liked the best, and we kind of narrowed it down to a couple that we liked the best. And then we had to adjust the recipe to, of course, making our great big mixers.
This was all in 2017, and soon they had their first store on Logan's South Side, and soon their first franchise store opened in Bountiful and then Orem. Now they have 320 stores nationwide, with a whopping 600 more scheduled to open this year, and they're exploring moving into Canada and Mexico. But in making their cookies, Sawyer wanted to commemorate where he's from and his alma mater, which is the inspiration for the Aggie Blue Mint cookie.
Of course, he loves Utah State, and he wanted to develop something that would represent his school. He loved the Aggie Blue Mint ice cream. That was actually one of the longest cookies to develop. They wanted to make sure that it was right, and they were able to obviously do a pretty good job because it's been pretty popular in Logan, and we only in Logan offer that cookie on the weekends because it's been a pretty popular cookie.
That cookie has made the rotation in their other stores in other states, but its primary popularity is in Utah. KBNU News Time is 4:43.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work, or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
KBNU weather tonight, partly cloudy, haze through the night, patchy fog after midnight, low 15 to 20, partly sunny on Thursday, patchy morning fog tomorrow, and hazy conditions, high in the mid-30s. As far as air quality, we do have an orange air alert and an air quality alert also in place in Franklin County, the northern end of Cache Valley. It's been to 36. It's 32 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather is brought to you by Berenson Caldwell. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the bear. Berenson Caldwell. Visit berensonlaw.com. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Cheryl, bringing you the Daily Financial Market Report on behalf of Jeff Olson and Edward Jones. Equities were up slightly on Wednesday, adding to Tuesday's rally that ended a 5-day slide for the S&P 500, which was driven by rising interest rates and worries over tighter Fed policy. 10-year Treasury yields ticked slightly lower to 1.73% after hitting 1.8% on Monday. Elsewhere, global equity markets were mixed on the day, while oil prices finished higher. Technology stocks led the way today on the back of moderating interest rates, reversing some of the underperformance in growth investments versus value in recent days. U.S. equities closed higher today. The Dow closed up 38 points at 36,290. The Nasdaq closed up 35 points at 15,188. The S&P closed up 13 points at 4,726. In stocks of local interest, Nucor was up 3.88 to 114.72. Thermo Fisher was up 4.70 to 625.20. Wells Fargo was up 0.34 to 56.40. Walmart was down 0.76 to 143.44. Apple was up 0.45 to 175.53. Autoliv was down 1.62 to 105.52. Northrop Grumman was down 5.07 to 395.53. Amazon was down 3.10 to 3,304.14. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisor Jeff Olson, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice at 580 North Main in Logan. If you would like additional information, please contact our branch office at 435-787-8170. Daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
NMLS 1817019.
This is Rod with LendRate Mortgage. Thanks to record high home prices, the new conventional loan limit just increased by almost $100,000. So now, anywhere in Utah, you can buy or refi with a conventional loan of up to $647,200. LendRate Mortgage can lock and close on this new limit now. We back our loans with our $1,000 lowest rate guarantee. And with record home values in Utah, those who had less than 20% equity before 2021 likely have enough equity now to get rid of mortgage insurance. Refi using your new value and get rid of wasteful mortgage insurance. Do it with our Freedom Loan and pay zero closing costs. Get a rate in the ones on 8 to 15-year terms. Rates are still in the 2s for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit LendRateMortgage.com.
Ah, that's better. Trade in the stresses of building a new home for relaxation. Visionary Homes Priority is giving you a stress-free building experience. Named the best home builder in northern Utah, Visionary Homes team will guide you seamlessly through the home building process. Call today, 435-228-4702, or visit visionaryhomes.com to learn more about upcoming communities in Nibley, Logan, and Smithfield. Visionary Homes, built for living, built for you.
When people leave one job for another, they usually take their personal stuff along with them, and yet millions of people still leave their 401k behind. Fortunately, Edward Jones can help you take control of your money. We'll explain your options and, if appropriate, help you roll over your 401k without paying taxes or penalties. To learn more, contact any of the 5 Edward Jones financial advisors in Cache Valley. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Something else lawmakers are probably going to be talking a lot about is child care here in Utah. Some numbers presented to lawmakers today showing that it's estimated somewhere between 10 and 11% of the workforce here in Utah didn't come back because of lack of access to child care. And this is men and women, mostly women. And they've just not come back into the workforce. And so we still have a labor shortage is a way to look at it, although I don't know if that's the most accurate way to describe it. We have more job openings than job seekers still here in Utah. I don't know if it's still 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 like it was last fall, but it's still significant enough. Lawmakers are discussing it. And one of the funding items that received a bill file that was unveiled today in this big bill file dump is a bill that would basically increase funding. The bill acknowledges that right now the two federal aid packages, one passed by the Trump administration and the latest passed by the American Rescue Plan passed by the Biden administration, are basically propping up a lot of things here in Utah, and child care is one of them. And so the bill's acknowledging that and saying, look, as a state, we need to pull our own bootstraps. So we've got to find some more funding for child care because that's keeping a lot of people who want to work out of the workforce, and employers want them to work as well. And the state wants them to work. There's more tax revenue if they're out there working. So everyone wants them to work, and they want to work, but it doesn't work for them because of a lack of child care options. So this bill acknowledges that once the federal funding runs out, it was approved by Congress last year, but they have until 2023 to spend it all, and then it's gone. And so right now there's not a plan B here in Utah on how to pay for that kind of thing, to get more child care options out there for families so that more people within the household can work. We'll see where this goes, but this bill is aiming to create a task force and study group, not spend any money yet. That was one of hundreds of bills unveiled today. We'll run through some of them. I mentioned before the break there, though, that some of these were police officer oriented. A lot of them, actually. So we'll start with those. Unveiled today, House Bill 73. There's also a House Bill 123, House Bill 124. What they aim to do, basically, House Bill 73, which was made public today, would allow the Utah Post, Peace Officer Standards and Training Committee, to investigate and discipline officers who violate a use of force policy. And you're probably out there thinking they can't do that already. And surprisingly, no, they can't. So this bill aims to change that and make it so they can investigate an officer who has violated a force of use policy within a department. Right now, an officer can be disciplined internally by a police department, but the state can't do anything about it. So an officer who violates force of use policy can't be the state can't go after him. A county attorney couldn't go after him like they could a state-employed IT guy that violated rules when it came to the IT network he was working on. So it seems, if the state can go after a public employee who's working in IT or office management, the state should be able to go after, and then go after teachers, as Mitch pointed out before the news there. They should be able to go after a police officer as well. This would probably come up very rarely, but it is kind of surprising that right now statute doesn't allow for it. The other bills unveiled today, and there may be more, I don't know, but House Bill 123 would create a requirement that police using force have to identify themselves as peace officers and give a clear oral warning to his or her intent to use a firearm. This one's kind of interesting because this is already in most training, as I understand it from Chief Jensen and others I've spoken with over the years. This type of thing is already trained regularly, but it's not actually required in statute. And so this bill is basically making it official. that because there are some incidents this last year, in fact, in which the media doing some digging has found out certain police departments haven't been training this, but it would make it state law for a police officer to identify him or herself as a police officer and give a clear oral statement on the intent to draw their weapon. And then House Bill 124, also unveiled today, is proposing to restrict no-knock warrants here in Utah. House Bill 124 would force police officers to wear readily identifiable markings or clothing as they approach a home or a business that identify them as law enforcement. It would require officers to knock and announce themselves more than once. Right now, they just have to do it once, and then they can kick the door in. Now, it would require them to do it more than once, at least, before forcibly entering a building. The bill would also set a preference for no-knock warrants to be served in daytime hours, citing data that show several times the no-knock warrants have been served at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., in which things have gone horribly wrong. And the reasoning on that is kind of makes sense to me. You have people sleeping in bed, and all of a sudden someone kicks the door in at 2 in the morning. You might get a very different response from that person, especially if they themselves have firearms in the house, than you would at, say, 3 in the afternoon or even 6 in the evening. So the bill would set a preference, not a requirement, but a preference that when a judge grants a no-knock warrant to police officers, the warrant requires it to be served in the daytime. So that would be kind of a when possible. There are going to be times when it's probably not possible and has to be served at night. But the preference here in the state of Utah, if this bill passes, would be daytime. And finally, House Bill 124 would prohibit the use of no-knock warrants for misdemeanor charges. That's surprising. It was surprising to me to learn here in Utah. No-knock warrant can be served for a misdemeanor. This bill would stop that, and that should probably be stopped. These are just 3 of hundreds of bills that were unveiled today. I've linked to the full publication on our Facebook page if you'd like to read them all. We'll spend more time on them tomorrow and even Friday. Aggie Game Day with Al Lewis is next here on KVNU.
It's John and Emily with Zero Res. If you've been putting off getting your carpets cleaned, there's no better time to call than now.
Call today and get on the schedule in January and get a 4th room clean for free when you mention the station.
This sale only happens once a year, so call now, 435-554-1050, or schedule online and use promo code FREEROOM.
That's 435-554-1050. Zero Res. Backwards or forwards, it's the right way to clean.
Took my crashed up Chevy to Mako. Look at it now.
After my accident, Mako fixed my BMW. Handled insurance, rental car, it was easy. That's why customer satisfaction is so high.
So choose Mako for collision. And if you need repairs, check out Mako now.
Do you have damage from the recent snowstorm? Mako Collision Repair and Auto Painting Centers can help. Mako guarantees the repairs and will get you back on the road fast. If you're paying for the repair yourself, Mako can save you up to 33% compared to other body shops and dealers. Bring your snow-damaged car to Mako today.
Procrastination isn't a valid retirement strategy. If your saving for a retirement approach involves the phrase, "I'll get around to it someday," it's time to make someday into today. Edward Jones can help. Contact your local Edward Jones financial advisor to get started today. Visit edwardjones.com or stop by your local Edward Jones office. When it comes to meeting your retirement goals, time can be on your side, and there's no better time than now. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Hi, this is Drew Allen with Allen Mortuaries. Over the years, thousands of families have planned ahead with Allen Mortuaries. Planning ahead helps you make informed and thoughtful decisions. It also spares your family the stress of making these decisions under the pressure of time and strong emotions. Allen Mortuaries' secure pre-need trust plan can save you nearly 40% versus other plans. Keep it simple, safe, and secure. Go with the proven choice, Allen Mortuaries. Voted best funeral home in Cache Valley in northern Utah. Allen Mortuaries. Then, now, always.
Ascent Aesthetics is a premier aesthetic practice. Doctors Benyon, Blotter, and Robinette of Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat are proud to offer you a professional aesthetics team. The Ascent team is passionate about education, best techniques, products, procedures, and services. If you're looking for help with Botox, fillers, microneedling, laser hair removal, medical-grade facials, or skincare, Ascent will help you feel confident, beautiful, and refreshed. See which Ascent service is right for you and learn more at AscentAesthetics.com. That's AscentAesthetics.com. northernsteelbuilding.com.
A building is just a building until it's your building. It's where you work, where you create, and where you store your valuable equipment. You take pride in your building, so make sure it's built right and built to last. Northern Steel Buildings will guide you from concept to construction. For your commercial, agricultural, or industrial steel building, visit northernsteelbuilding.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.